and welcome to the Pantheon, where today we're going to be delving deeper into the frozen abyss that is Kaldheim, and looking at one of the brand new gods that we might recognise, maybe we won't, I don't know. Let's have a look at him. It's Valki, God of Lies, who weighs in at 2 mana, and he's a 2/1. He's a god, and when he enters the battlefield, each opponent reveals their hand. For each opponent, exile a creature card that is revealed this way until Valki leaves the battlefield. You can pay X, choose a creature card exiled with Valki, with current mana card X. Valki becomes a copy of that card. Excellent bit of disruption, you can really mess with your opponent's plans, and you can see what's coming. Potentially if they're playing a combo deck, you could hit a combo piece. There's a lot of play to this card, and in at 2 mana, it's pretty good. But then, if you notice, there's a thing that says Tibalt at the bottom, and oh, he's a cosmic imposter. 7 mana for a Planeswalker Tibalt with 5 loyalty. As he enters the battlefield, you get an emblem with, you may play cards exiled with Tibalt Cosmic Imposter. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any colour. +2, exile the top card of each player's library. -3, exile target artifact or creature. -8, exile all cards from all graveyards. Add triple red. The triple red is not making much of an impact on everything, but nice little bonus there. Really, really cool. Stealing things is so powerful and so much fun. And this is a great Planeswalker, although 7 mana is pretty rough. So, it's not who we thought it was. Ooh. But this can lead to a really cool commander deck that I really, really enjoy. And the interaction between Valki and Tibalt is really cool. There's a nice tension there. Do you want to play the Valki side early to know what's happening with your opponents? But you want to get to the Tibalt bit. So maybe you want to ramp. And those decision points are what make the deck interesting to me. So without further ado, let's have a look at my subscription button. So please press it if you like what I'm doing here. I'm going to be making a video like this for every single legendary creature ever printed. It's going to take me forever, but I'm going to really enjoy doing it because I love looking at Magic. So please subscribe. Without further ado, let's have a look at number 5. So in at number 5, we have Stolen Strategy. Now, this is basically one of Tibalt's abilities. And having redundancy in your deck is great. And this causes so much card advantage. 5 mana for an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of each opponent's library. At the end of turn, you may cast non-land cards from among those exiled cards. And you may spend mana as though it were mana of any colour to cast those spells. So each turn, you're not drawing 1 card, you're drawing 4, essentially. And sometimes you can really mess up your opponents. If you exile one of their key pieces, one of their, combo win conditions, there's going to be a bit of salt with this card, but it's just so much fun and it's perfect for this deck. Similarly, Creator's Grasp is an incredible card. 3 mana for a sorcery, search target opponent's library for a card and exile it face down. Then that player shuffles his library. You may look at that card and play that card for as long as it remains exiled. Again, really disrupts them. This is playing very much into the Valki sort of side of things, messing with your opponent's strategy, and you can just steal whatever they've got going on. Atali, Primal Storm, again, very similar to this. 6 mana for a 6/6. Whenever it attacks, exile the top card of each player's library. You may cast any number of spells from among those cards without paying their mana cost. This is better than Stolen Strategy as you do not have to pay for them. You just get tons of value and you even get a card from your own library. Very, 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 very good. Oh, I love this dinosaur. Then Sunbird's Invocation. 6 mana for an enchantment. Whenever you cast a spell from your hand, reveal the top X cards of your library, where X is that spell's converting mana cost. You may cast a card revealed this way with converting mana cost X or less without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Ooh, wacky. But you get so much value off this. You just churn through your deck and get the best cards out of it. And it's just so, so good. Gonti, Lord of Luxury, is a wonderful Aether-born rogue. 4 mana for a 2/3 with Death Touch. When he enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of target opponent's library, exile one of them face down, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. You may look at and cast that card for as long as it remains exiled, and you may spend mana as though a mana of any type to cast it. So, really, really powerful one-off effect, but there's a couple of ways in this deck that we can use this over and over again that work really well with Valki as well, which we'll get to in a second. But stealing one of the best cards in your opponent's top 4, this is also incredible. If they've just shooted something to the top of the library and you play a Gonti, the salt flows. It's wonderful. Then we've got Keru Mind Eater, a 3 mana 1/3 with Menace. When it deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles a card from his or her hand face down. You may look at cards, look and play cards exiled with Keru Mind Eater. So excellent. You're chipping away at your opponents in a different way. Maybe once you've played Valki, you see, oh, right, they've got an excellent card there. I'll exile that with Keru Mind Eater so they won't be able to get it back. And also, you can cast it for as long as Keru Mind Eater is on the field. Very, very powerful. Thieving Amalgam, 7 mana for a 6/7 Ape Snake. great card type there. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, you manifest the top card of that player's library, which means you put it face down as a 2/2 creature, turn it face up anytime for its mana cost if it's a creature card. And whenever a creature you control but don't own dies, its owner loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So this works excellently. That last ability, especially if you're stealing a lot of your opponent's creatures and they die, you're really going to hammer home tons of damage and you're going to gain some life. Which brings me on to number 4. And in at number 4, we have Fraxium Reclamation. And this is one of the cards that works really, really well with Gonti and Valki. So, Fraxium Reclamation, a black, and you can, for an enchantment, pay 2 and pay 2 life. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So, with Valki, the way I'd play this deck, I'd play Valki out early and then let him die. But I won't put him back to the command zone because then casting Tibalt costs 9 mana. I'd let him go to the graveyard. Same with Gonti. Gonti goes to the graveyard. And then fish them out with something like this so that we can recast Tibalt or, recast Gonti and get a ton of value that way. That's just how I'd play the deck personally. So to go along with that, Tortured Existence is a black mana for an enchantment. Pay a black, choose and discard a creature card. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So you just get rid of the least useful thing in your hand for a single black. Get back our commander or a Gonti and then reuse it. And it can lead to incredibly powerful plays. Colligan's Command, another way to fish out a card and also deal some really crippling damage to our opponents. 3 mana for an instant. Choose 2. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So we get back our Valki. Target player discards a card. So at instant speed, you can make your opponents discard a card. Very nice. Destroy a target artifact. Can get rid of Soaring. And deals 2 damage to target creature or player. So if your opponent's at 2 life, they're dead. Or if they're playing like an Azami that's a 0/2, you can just kill it with Colligan's Command. Excellent card. Then we have Cauldron Dance, which is a 6 mana instant. You can cast it only during combat. So, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. That creature gains haste, return it to your hand at the beginning of the end step. So, if that's Valki, comes onto the field, we look at everyone's hand, exile a card, but it then goes back to the hand when he leaves. But you've seen what's going on with everyone's hand. You may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. That creature gains haste, its control sacrifices at the beginning of the next end step. So we can then put like a Gonti, get a trigger off that, and we just swap those creatures over, which is really, really cool at instant speed. Then we've got a personal favourite of mine, Skull Collector. 3 mana for an Ogre Warrior. At the beginning of your upkeep, return a black creature you control to its owner's hand. Pay 2, regenerate Skull Collector. So, if you have no other black creatures, it will return itself, but Valki and our other enter the battlefield creatures are black, so this can return to our hand. We can recast Valki as itself if we want to look at everyone's hand again, or potentially we can cast it as Tibalt, and it's just so cool. Inkai's Servant Oni. Now this is a different way you could take the deck. 6 mana for a 5/4 Rat Ninja with Ninjutsu for 5 mana. Which means pay 5 mana, return an unblocked attacker you control to your owner's hand. Put that card onto the battlefield from your hand tapped and attacking. So you swap Valki for Inkai's, and then when Inkai's deals combat damage to a player, you may put a target creature card from a player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So you can reanimate one of their things. It's more stealing, and it returns Valki to your hand so you can recast him. Really, really good. You can also regenerate ink eyes for a colourless and a black. Then Sanctum of Eternity is a land that taps for a colourless. You can pay 2, tap it, return target commander you own from the battlefield to your hand. Activate this ability only during your turn. Really, really good with Valki. You can just bounce him back, play him as Tibalt. So there's a lot of ways that we can play both halves of our commander here, and that's what I really like about Valki. You know, you're not locked into just choosing one of the sides. You can use both of them in this deck. Number 3, we got Jeska's Will. Sometimes you just want to ramp into Tibalt, you know, and just cause carnage. So for 3 mana for a sorcery, choose one. If you control a commander, you cast this card. You may choose both. So, right, admittedly, if Valki or Tibalt is on the field, you can have both. But at that point, you're pretty far ahead. So, hooray, we've got loads of mana and cards. So, one of the modes, add red for each card in target opponent's hand. This could easily get us to Tibalt mana, 7 cards in someone's hand. And, you know, we're casting Tibalt on turn 3 or 4. Exile, and then the other mode, exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. Excellent bit of card advantage. To go along with this, I'd play quite a few rituals. Seething Song is a 3 mana instant to add 5 red to your mana pool. So again, this can easily get us to Tibalt mana early. Then we've got Geode Golem, which is sort of a commander ritual in a way. 5 mana for a golem, 5/3 with trample. When it deals combat damage to a player, you may cast your commander from the command zone without paying its mana cost. You still have to pay an additional cost. So if our Tibalt ends up in the command zone, we end up hitting someone and we can cast it for just 2 generic or however many times it's died. And if it's not died at all, just free, which is really, really good. Then Electro Dominance is a double red and X spell for an instant. It deals X damage to any target. You may cast a card with converting mana cost X or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. So, if X is 2, I believe this is how it works. You can cast Valki, but you can actually, because you're casting it, you cast either side. So it just looks at the 2 CMC for the start of the resolution, but then as you're casting it, you can cast the Tibalt version. I think. I'm pretty sure that's how it works, but I could be completely wrong. I know they changed the Cascade rulings, so don't take my word as gospel. Look into it, but I think that's how it would work with Electro Dominance. Which brings me on to number 2. And in number 2, we have Blight Herder. So, we're going to be exiling a lot of our opponent's cards. So why don't we use them for something? And the Eldrazi processes are a really cool way of using them. 5 mana for a 4/5. When you cast Blight Herder, you may put 2 cards for your opponent's own from exile into those opponent's graveyards. If you do, put 3 1/1 Skull Scion creature tokens onto the battlefield. They have sacrifice this creature, add a colours to your mana pool. This can accelerate you so much, and it's just such a cool use of one of our commander's main abilities, the exiling of cards. And a lot of the cards I've talked about exile cards, so this works fantastically. It just strips resources from your opponent and creates a ton of ramp, which can lead to, you know, big explosive plays. And a massive board state. You're getting 4 bodies for this. It's really, really nice. Similar to that, Oblivion Sower, 6 mana for a 5/8. When you cast it, target opponent exiles the top 4 cards of his or her library. Then you may put any number of land cards that player owns from exile onto the battlefield under your control. So late game, this could get you a ton of land drops, which is really, really nice. Then Wasteland Strangler, 3 mana for a 3/2 with Devoid, so it has no colour. When it enters the battlefield, you may put a card your opponent owns from exile onto the player's graveyard. If you do, target creature gets -3/3 until end of turn. Nice little incidental effect, can potentially kill a commander or just, you know, soften something up a little bit, but nice use of the cards in exile. Then Mindraker, I wouldn't put this in the deck, but you could do. 4 mana for a 3/3 with Devoid. When it enters the battlefield, you may put a card an opponent owns from exile into that player's graveyard. If you do, each opponent discards a card. Sort of nice incidental value. The unfortunate thing about these cards is Skull Collector that I showed you before. It can't bounce these because they're actually colorless, even though they have black mana in their mana cost. So that's pretty unfortunate. Anyway, coming on to number 1. And in at number 1, we have Ensnaring Bridge. So we've got our Tibalt onto the field. You know, we've committed to having a massive dude fly everywhere. We want him to stay there. Ensnaring Bridge, 3 mana for an artifact. Creatures with power greater than the number of cards in your hand can't attack. So nothing will be able to attack in and kill our commander, which is very, very powerful. And if we can get to the ultimate, we'll just have an absolute wealth of cards that we can cast. Similar to this, Static Orb is a 3 mana artifact. If it is untapped, players can't untap more than 2 permanents during their untap step. So we can just generate a ton of value with our commander, just ticking up and up and up and getting loads of cards from our opponents, while they're just untapping 1 or 2 permanents a turn. Similar to this, Magus of the Moon can really shut down decks. 3 mana for a 2/2, non-basic lands and mountains. If our opponents can't cast their spells, they're not going to be killing us. It's as simple as that. People will be very unhappy that this is happening to them. But to hell with it. You want to win the game. You want to Tibalt all over the place, don't you? So why don't you? And then Blood Moon is just the original enchantment version of Magus of the Moon. 3 mana, non-basic lands and mountains. Absolutely crippling to your opponent and won't really hurt us as we're a 2-colored deck. So you should have quite a few basics in there. And those are my top 5 cards for this Tibalty commander. We didn't know it was Tibalt, but now we do. And by God, am I happy to be playing Tibalt as a commander. After all those years we've been garbage, finally, he's slightly above average. Which is cool. Really cool commander. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe. It'd make me very happy. And I would smile for at least a couple of seconds. Thank you very much for watching. And I'll see you soon. Bye.